All right, so I'll do a bit of background, and then why don't we switch into questions? And because the reason I said yes so quickly, um, the thing that I just hate about being an author is I can't get inside people's head to know what they're thinking when they get to a sentence or a paragraph or a chapter. It's just like, what is it? Like you spend a great deal of time trying to craft the message and the story, and then you don't know. You just have no idea. So, uh, and Megan, you and I kind of talked about that a little bit, just making sure that what were your impressions? What kind of insights, especially with the earthquake? Because it's over writing the book, The Ant and the Elephant, since 2003. I'm getting a real good sense of what people are thinking, but the earthquake is relatively new, and uh, people don't read books as much as they used to. I don't think. I really the audiobook sales are doing quite well, actually. And the book sales are just kind of dribs and drabs, but I'm starting to hear back about that. So I'm very, very curious to know from those of you on the call, through your questions and maybe some insights of what parts resonate with you, and did it hit the mark? And you're not going to hurt my feelings. It's too late. There's no way you can hurt as an author, my feelings. If there's something that confused you or whatever, I'd like to hear that too. Albeit too late for me to change the book. I don't know. Writing a book is just such an uncertain venture, and then when you put it out there, the uncertainty just doesn't go away. So you get a better idea of what works and what doesn't. So thank you for hosting me at your book club here, and I'm happy to answer any questions before the top of the hour. So
Okay.
sound good?
Sounds great.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you a bit of background. So I definitely did not start off as an author. In fact, one of the most annoying classes in school for me and college was English. I mean, I just didn't enjoy writing at all. Although that trip, funny enough, I just had a flashback. When I was traveling, I took a year off university and I decided to backpack around the world. It started at the Commonwealth Games in Brisbane, and I was keeping a traveler's diary about maybe 3, 4 days, maybe a week. And then I went, this is crazy. Why don't I just write my diary as my letters home? And because it was a very analog world, I wanted those letters to paint the picture, because long distance calls would be prohibitive and a postcard just never did it. So did it justice. So I made sure these letters are descriptive in nature. And then my mom started to, come back saying, Vince, you've got a real talent for writing. And, simply put, if the more you write, the better you get at writing. So it's not a magical formula, you just get better at it. So I was gone a year and I wrote back letters. And with those letters, I also sent back slides of the trip and had my folks develop those slides. So I never saw the pictures from the trip until I got home, and they were all those old-fashioned slides. So that world trip was very profound in nature, because I think everybody should travel. It just opens up the world to you, and you just realize that you're not in your own bubble. And I call the United States, where I live, I'm a Canadian, but I married a Texas gal. The United States, the center of the universe, as far as they're concerned, because they're a funny bunch when it comes to staying in their bubble, So to travel was such an extraordinary experience. I remember in Singapore, after my Australia leg, which is about 3 months I spent in Australia, a fortune teller looked at my palm, and it was maybe $5, I think, or $3. It was cheap. And he looked at my palm and he looks up and he says, what do you want to hear? And I went, well, what do you see? He says, well, you're not going to live past 40. So there was this sense of urgency and obviously I'm just past 40. I'm, no, I'm 61, but that was a sense of urgency to live fully, right? And having a friend pass away in high school, I made a decision early on to do everything at least once. And so that led to my experience of, after this world trip, to try the sport of luge, which is an Olympic winter sport, kind of like bobsled, but one person laying on their back on a sled. Quit that, regretted that, watched my luge buddies marching in the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, and I had quit, and I went, no, no regrets. And so I started to ski race in speed skiing. And I put together a very an exceptional mental training program. I'd learned from luge how important visualization and imagery was, and how the untapped potential of the brain, and went not only got to the Olympic Games, but 2 years prior to the Olympic Games, I was ranked 10th in the world in my sport of ski racing because of mental training. And that's a whole different story. But embedded in that entire book, The Ant and the Elephant, was the formula that I used to get to the Olympic Games, and from a recreational skier at 26 to the gold medal round of the Olympics by the age of 30. So in 4 years, it really accelerated outcomes. And that's why I believe the book has really resonated with people, because it has practical tools that are also attached to the story. Now, I have a bias when it comes to speaking, and I'm a professional speaker today, that it's not about the content. We've all kind of been in a class where a professor just kind of drones on about the content, and it's not sticky. But if the content is attached to a story, it becomes much stickier. The fact is, people never forget an experience. And so why not take people through an experience? And that was the reason for a parable. And people, publishers, I should say, really look down their nose at parables. They're not as in vogue. They don't sell as well. But I still really believe that people will remember the concept of the ant and the elephant if they can see it in their mind's eye. And so after the Olympics, I didn't win. I placed 15th, and my exit strategy was win the gold medal, then I'll be a professional speaker, right? I've met your Aussie buddy, the speed skater who everybody fell in front of him, and he won the gold medal. Stephen something or other. Yeah. Stephen what?
Bradbury. Jennifer Bradbury.
Yeah, I've had a beer. I had many, many beers with Stephen Bradbury. That guy could just stop. I want to go to bed. But he won the gold medal and became a speaker. And I wanted to be a speaker too, but I was 15th in the Olympics, so I left the idea alone. About a year and a half after the Olympic Games, I gave a small speech to a small group, 90 people. And people were crying. There was a standing ovation. I was like, what? It just totally caught me off guard. Now, I don't know why they did that, because I look back on the old video and that was horrible. And I'm still trying to get better today, but that launched my speaking career. And eventually, somebody came up and said, where's your book? And I got that question a lot. Where's your book? Where's your book? And I was giving speeches, and it reminds me of a place in a tourist shop not far from here. And there was a bunch of shops, and in one shop there was this placard on this sheet about this big, and in felt pen they wrote, "No, we don't sell ice cream." Right? And which I thought was comical, because if people are asking for ice cream, why didn't you just put some ice cream in there? And so I wrote The Invincible Principles, and one little section of the book was from research that I'd heard recently from a Dr. Lee Poulos, who found that in a second of time, the conscious mind processes with 2,000 neurons. So 2,000 neurons right now are processing what I have to say. You might be enjoying this. You might have a burning question that you're thinking of. You might be thinking, I look like the old man from the movie Up. Whatever you're thinking is your conscious mind. But in the same second, the subconscious mind is using 4 billion neurons with a B. And Dr. Lee Poulos, the metaphor he uses, if you took a golf ball and you put it on the top of the Houston Astrodome, the golf ball would be the conscious mind, the Astrodome, the subconscious mind. And it occurred to me that there's a better metaphor, which would have been an ant and an elephant. And as if it was yesterday, after the Invincible Principles, my first book came out, and I had that little clip in the little few paragraphs in that book on the ant and the elephant concept. I was stepping onto the plane. It's when my foot went from the jetway to the carpet of the plane, and I went, wait, that could be a parable. That could be an ant on the back of the elephant. That could be an ant going, wait a minute, I'm not going to get to where I want to go unless the elephant goes in the same direction. So this whole thing, by the time I sat down and they turned you can open your laptops up, I was just like banging out this concept for the book, because I really thought that was what I was meant to do. The book came out as self-published, and it's in, I think, 13 or 14 languages. It was still self-published. Didn't give it away, the rights to a publisher, because I didn't have to. I had audiences I was speaking to. And then out of the blue, like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the basketball star LeBron James, but he quoted it in Sports Illustrated, and it just keeps showing up. FedEx uses it as a leadership tool. DuPont uses it as a safety concept for less incidents at work. So the ant and the elephant really had a life of its own. About 10 years later or so, maybe 15, I was thinking about 12 years later, what if the ant and the elephant experienced an earthquake? What if their entire lives were ripped out from underneath them? And the only reason I ended up writing about this book is I went through my own financial earthquake. I mean, I've really lived a very fortunate life. Everything to me has always been blue sky. I mean, I came from a middle-class family, but getting to the Olympics, there's one. Becoming a New York Times best-selling author, there's another one. Being inducted into the Speaker Hall of Fame in 2 countries, there's another one. I mean, everything just seemed that if I set my mind to it, I could achieve it. And it was just like, yeah, how hard could it be? But in 2008, I made 2 very significant bets. So much so that I was bootstrapping with a bunch of credit card debt on one side, and building the home that you don't see, but it's over there. It's it's probably about a $5 million home now. I mean, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do both these things at the same time. And then the economy crashed in 2008. And everybody got hurt by that. I got annihilated. I'm still today suffering financial aftershocks from that a moment in 2008. And it was so devastating that I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. I couldn't figure out how to get back on top. I couldn't figure out how to align my ant and elephant, basically. And the opening line of the book of the earthquake is, there's no linear way out of chaos. And it's one thing as an author to have the concept for a book. It's quite another thing to have an answer to that concept. And this is my 8th book. You get to a point as an author where you're just not going to, it's really easy to write a bad book, but to write a book that has the reader go, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, that's sticky. And being able to take the character development. Over the years, I learned in The Ant and the Elephant that it was important to develop these characters, maybe even more than I did in that book, It was maybe a little simplistic with their characters, the layers of their character, but I really challenged myself in this book, The Earthquake, to have more layers to the characters, to have a theme that I use is I wanted to be Pixar worthy, right? If you've seen a Pixar movie like Up or Monsters Inc. or Toy Story, there's a lot of character development in those stories, and there's always a message. But in the same breath, I wanted to do that. I wanted to stand alone as a Pixar worthy type story, but I also wanted to infuse content that had the reader go, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. And to the elephant is a very prescriptive linear program that I happen to use to get to the Olympic Games, right? So when I wrote had the concept for the earthquake, I wasn't out of my financial misery. I was actually in the middle of it. The confidence was shaken, the form of depression. Wait a minute, I speak on this. How can I not figure this out? So it was an extremely personal book, an extremely to the absolute extreme of taking my personal journey and overlaying that to the parable, but not being trite about it. It would have been too easy to say, oh, if you're having problems, let go, or it'll all work out, and all the advice mom and dad used to say, and or some monk on the corner, it's like, well, you just, or any Zen, like whatever. It needed to have a formula that was universal, addressing the concept of chaos. And there's no linear way out of chaos. So what is the answer? Oh man, it was about 5 years of just not being able to figure it out. I was just researching and doing all sorts of interviews and stuff. And I've become friends with a fellow author who was on a program we have here called Oprah Winfrey back in the day. He was on Oprah maybe 19 times. He's got an international bestseller, Getting the Love That You Want. He's become a friend. I said, Harwell, we have lunch. I just can't sort this. He said, sure. So we sit down, and he's a relationship guy. And he says, oh, it's the relationship between the ant and the elephant. That's what it is. And I went, oh, that's it. That's it. They have a dysfunctional relationship. And then I was going, you think of a relationship. He says, picture two people in a vehicle, but both of them have a steering wheel. Both of them are trying to navigate this vehicle called you, and the conscious mind and the subconscious mind will not let go of their steering wheel. They won't, especially if there's some sort of trauma, especially if there's some sort of damage, especially if there's some sort of stubbornness, especially if I've been here before, I can do it again. What got me here can get me there, can it? And so that metaphor of two people in the same vehicle with a steering wheel had me go, aha. And then the book just flowed right out of me. It was just like, then it was that epiphany moment, like getting on the plane for Ant and the Elephant. It was just like that. I mapped out the book more or less with content. This one I did a little different. I pulled information from all sorts of sources, from Buddhism to probably Christianity. I can't think of specifics, but just pulling information from all different places, and then pulling all that information, and then mapped out the book and wrote the book in a week. It was pretty amazing. I got up at 7 a.m., 6 a.m., just started writing at about 11 at night, went to bed, woke up the next morning, and I always write at a retreat. I never go, it's very difficult for me to write a book from my office. And then it was edited. I would think I went through probably 10, I know it was 10 iterations of the earthquake after it was back and forth. And I ended up having 3 editors. which I do not recommend, because I said to the last one, I said, you know, I love you, but in the same breath, I want to reach through the phone and choke you till you cannot breathe. So, and I was kidding, kind of. Anyway, so having an editor is essential. It just helps from that outside perspective. And so there's the backstory. I think I went on a little too long, but hopefully that was worth your time.
That was fantastic. And Vince, I also am a published author, and the editor thing resonates very strongly with me. In fact, I think I told my editor, I am so going to slap you when I see you, so many times.
The good ones must hear that all the time, because you just, yeah. But anyway, it you know, the Ant the Elephant was 14 wholesale edits, 14. And if you've not written a book like Megan has, there's what, 40,000 words, and they can go in various different order and concepts, and try to keep it all straight. And so it's as close as I'll come to giving birth. And then you get amnesia, right? You have a kid, and then a few years later go, ah, have another one. How hard could it be? And then you go, I never do this again. So
yeah. That's hilarious. So does anybody have any questions? Oh, here, Joanne does. Out of curiosity, what does, I've lost it now, what does insurance cost for editors?
Insurance cost for editors.
Yeah, so do they need life insurance? Yeah, that's a very pertinent question, Joe. Very funny. I don't even know if they do have their own. They probably do. So does anybody
I would put if there was a good editor, I'd put a life insurance plan on her.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody have any questions for Vince, specifically around the earthquake? I have some, but I always do. Yeah.
This isn't actually a question, it's just a reflection on you saying that you know, spoke about that stuff and then found it really hard to manage as counselors. That happens very often. You know, we are very good at being able to you know, help people through their issues and listen and know all the right steps and all this sort of stuff and the theories and that. And then when you have stuff in your own life, it can be really difficult. Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome to the human race, right?
I think that our profession teaches the separation of functions. So we're absolutely trained to separate the personal from the political, except that I'm a feminist and there is no separation for me. Or the personal, yeah, another one there in Vietnam. Jani is waving, saying yes, same for her, and Cardina's nodding. But also the personal from the work life. You know, we're trained to separate. And certainly when I was teaching at uni, and I've got at least one of my previous students here, I'm horrified to reflect that I also bought into that said, you don't ever let anybody know about your family. Well, some of you know my children. And certainly my oldest daughter is involved in what I'm about to launch tomorrow, my new online program, because I believe that being humble, but also being vulnerable, helps us to connect to other people. As Vince just said, welcome to the human race. We are humans. My goodness me, we get divorced. You know, 1999 was my earthquake, and some of you will remember that was just the most devastating. Yes, Jennifer's going, oh my God, don't talk about that, Megan. Yeah, devastating. And for other people, it's been, yeah, Jani's laughing too, very recent stuff. Stuff happens to us all in life. It's how we pick up and move on. It's how we navigate our own earthquakes. It's how we use the feedback loop. Now, I have a question to put to all of you, and I don't know if I'm going to say the name of the flower correctly, Vince. Is it Polaria? What's the name of the flower? Plumeria. Okay. So
It's actually a frangipani.
Frangipani. That's what I was going to say. Yes. Yeah. So are you all aware?
Frangipani is what I live by.
Yes. Yeah. So frangipani. Now, representation and languaging is so very important to people to help them read the subtext of anything, read the subtext of a counseling situation, read the subtext of a book. So when I was reading The Earthquake, I actually had to look up what a Polaria, Polaria. Plumeria. Okay, like the flu. So I had to look it up because I had no connection to that flower, which meant that I had no connection in my gray matter, in my conscious mind, in the 2000 neurons, to the feedback loop. And then the 5 stages. Can anybody tell me immediately what those 5 nonlinear stages are? Can you put it in a linear fashion? Right. Again, we have to find a way to be able to fit that into our brain that understands, so that our subconscious can soak it up and we can just move forward. So, you know, most of you that know me will know that I'm really big on mnemonics, because I've drunk far too much champagne through my life to be able to remember everything. Joe's saying yes, connections. Yep. So I have to find a way to remember it. And it's CACCA, which is the contradiction aligns when curious and creative people take action. There's the steps. Right? And it was really interesting to me. I have stalked, as some of you know, I have stalked Vince for a number of years now. I've been on the periphery, you know, I watch and read whatever comes out. Well, come on, you guys, you know that I have said many times, oh my God, I'm going to marry that man when I grow up. I love his style, the way he writes. And my husband just rolls his eyes, you know, oh, whatever.
Yeah, competition, pal.
Yes. But I love the way.
No, bigamy.
I beg your pardon? Sorry?
Polyamory.
Oh, yeah.
Polyamory.
There is a term for that. All right.
No, you don't have to only be with Vince. You can be also with Paul.
Oh, now I've lost my chain of thought of what I was
love
going
Aussies.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Johnny.
So speaking of Aussies, I think that we've probably got a number of people here who have, yeah, I agree, Joe, sounds like too much hard work. That's why I'm living on the island, is to get away from my children. I have to find another island where I can get away from everybody and just contact Mr. Paul whenever I need to. So what did you guys get out of the book? What was the deep resonation for you? And I love what Vince says about stickiness. Obviously, that's an American term because it's not one that we use in Australia that I'm aware of. But what was the sticky points of this book for you? What spoke to your souls?
Hi. I think for me, one of the things that really stood out for me was, so after my own personal earthquake many years ago and trying to navigate my way out of that, it was really just getting back to those basics around you know, the exercise, the healthy eating, the time for personal reflection. And I think that's something that I really try and advocate for clients to do in the work that I do, because really, like, these complex problems and how you get out of a disaster is so difficult when you don't take that time just to care for your own basic human needs. So I really like to see that was in the story, and that Adair and Elgo took that time to, you know, stop eating the sugar cane and make better decisions. And then that led to a little bit of clarity where they could actually, you know, draw on some of that internal strength to deal with the bigger problems that they were facing. I think that that's so important and often, you know, really overlooked in the work that that I do or that we do as social workers, we're so busy trying to help people fix or navigate the way out of problems that we forget the most basic things that are thrown into chaos when people are experiencing difficulties.
Yeah, great point.
Mm.
And notice how that was inserted 2/3 into the book, right? What to do after experiencing that kind of devastation. And it was, I deal with it here in the US all the time, and Canada. They tell us what to do. They've got, they want to increase their revenue, or they want their sales team to be selling more, or whatever. And I don't start there. You don't start there. You start with the, in the earthquake, it's grasp the contradiction, which actually is a kind of a complex concept, because there's a contradiction between consciousness, or being have intention, and then the subconscious agenda, which is subconscious, like it's below consciousness. So what is it, right? And that evidence doesn't reveal itself until you get well into the misery of it all. So yeah, that's a great point.
I really grappled with that very first step, trying to understand the contradiction. And I know that there is another member of our book club who would also really struggle with that, because sometimes earthquakes create a need to control. And I will own that in myself. In the past, I have had to control situations totally because that was my protection. So then building down those walls, bringing down those walls, letting other people in, being vulnerable to what life throws at us and just coping with us. There's the contradiction right there. But I'm this strong woman. No, I have to let go. I just have to enjoy this journey. No, I'm going to Alaska, or I'm doing this, or, I'm going to live in London. I'm in control of my life, not you. So it took me a while to totally get that. And Vince, it wasn't until yesterday that I'd actually went, oh my God, it's that simple. Okay, Megan, enjoy the journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So,
right.
And I don't know if I hadn't I've read it 4 times now because I'm writing a review. So I'm going back and making sure that I've got all of the important things covered, particularly in terms of meaning for people who work with people. Like, how can you use this as a tool in your work? How will this inform your practice, but also inform and improve your own life? So from an academic perspective, which is really interesting, because the subconscious is badly wanting to do the writing, but the conscious is going, no, you can't use that word. No, it's got to be this way. So that was when I went, oh my goodness. And I watched a video with you and Michelle yesterday on a Glow. And that was when it went, oh, that's it. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Michelle's my wife.
Yeah, I know that. Are you saying that for everybody else? Yeah, Michelle.
Everybody else, yeah.
Yes. So everybody else that is there, favorite characters. Who are you? Which character are you? Which character do you want to be in 12 months' time? Where's Tanya? Can't see her.
I actually feel like part of all of them at different stages. Rio, not as much as I'd like to be, but definitely part of all of them.
Huh, interesting.
Even the vultures.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, me too. Although I did think about the Chromia. I won't name names, but I can think of some very angry women in my past. And so I was kind of channeling that person. Yeah.
That makes you a great writer when you can personify something else with the lived experience. And it's that storytelling that we were talking about before. Now, people love stories. Yeah, that's why fables do work. And that's why we read fables to our children, because it teaches lessons. the list of classics. You know, everybody's saying, read the classics. You know, do you know this? And I certainly say that to Mr. Paul all the time too. Like, darling, if you're going to read a classic so that you're learning something about human relationships from it. That's what makes them classics. You can pick it up at any time, any era, and it's teaching you about human relationships. So I know that these two books in particular, they're going to outlive all of us because it teaches people about how to operate in the world, but not only with themselves, but also with other people, which is so important. And you all know that emotional intelligence is my big thing, increasing emotional intelligence with everybody that I come across. And these are just perfect tools. Very interesting for me to reflect on something you've just said, Vince, about, okay. So Rose says, I've been listening with my daughter and she really likes Elgo. She is trying to understand. I've lost it again. It's dropped down. Can somebody else see that? She's trying to understand anger and expression of anger at the moment, and she really identifies with Elgo. That when she is trying to keep her expression of anger in check, she feels like tiny deer sitting on top of a large beast. Wow. Now, Luna's, I think, is about 8 or 9, so that's terrific insight from a young one. Wow. That's great. Vince, how many children read these books? Do you know? Do you have stats on that?
I have no idea. The Ant and the Elephant is automatically, you can see an animated movie in your mind's eye with that, and the Earthquake as well. But it's both are very adult topics. So, yeah.
Who is buying? Do you have the breakdown of the stats? You said Audible before. The sales have gone really well.
It's too soon to tell. It's mostly adults for the Ant and the Elephant, and I haven't got a real resurgence. I'm getting a lot of university professors. I'm hearing about educators using that concept quite a bit. So that's when I hear about it third hand or whatever. There's a company in India that's just decided they're going to publish the book. So I'm trying to sort them out right now, but that happens when you write a book, is another country will go, well, not our laws, and then they just do whatever they want. So
yeah. And are they writing it for adults or for children? Is that what they're wanting to do?
No, they just took them. They stole the book.
Yeah. Okay. As they do. Yeah. Yes.
Right. So I actually called him up, and he was all like, wait, what? You know, because I don't believe in hiring lawyers. I don't know. You're a lawyer, I apologize, but they can slow things down so much where a simple conversation should be able to accelerate things. So
absolutely. Well, lawyers are adversarial by training. So if you're trying to move away from that conscious adversarial mind that has to be in control, it doesn't quite fit with your whole life philosophy here. Yeah, so that's interesting. I just want to go back to what Joanne, I had started to read that and I can now see her message. There's no linear way out of chaos. How I experience and react is quite fine, and it can not only be safe to think from different perspectives, but beneficial as well. Absolutely. I think all of us need to be looking at things from different perspectives, and that's part of the 5-step feedback loop, that be curious. And you all know that in book club, I sell the 5 W's and a how model of investigating a book. You know, read the subtext, ask the 5 W questions and the how questions, be curious. Why has this happened? Why would that person react like that? What does that actually mean? Yeah. What is a plumeria? I think did I say that? Yeah. I'm going to have to practice this one. Yes.
You could just call it a frangipani.
Yes.
It's a frangipani.
I'm trying to be true to the author there. Yes, frangipani.
Hey, Joanne,
but you can't remember. Just accept you can't remember for the time being, and then when you can remember, use plumeria.
Yes.
Joanne, you inspired a thought that I wanted to bring up. One of the unintended consequences of the earthquake was it ended up being a book also about polarity, we're noticing more and more a binary world. Are you on my side or the wrong side? Are you, is it black or is it white? Or, you know, and in a binary world, the whole yin and yang concept, the interplay that is just so two things holding the same space at the same time. And that's, I didn't set out to have Valifar and Brio become friends, but I had run into I was at a speech in Israel, and I have a good friend who lives there. So I decided to stay a week, and he's a little bit hippy dippy, and we ended up at a peace conference, right, in Israel. It's so bizarre. So here I'm wandering around a peace conference, you know, where a week prior I didn't have any idea I would be. There were Palestinians there and Israelis and Christians and something else. And there maybe about 400 of us. So you end up having conversations in an experience like that. And one in particular, a Palestinian, he leaned forward and he says, you know, my father was shot in the back by an Israeli. And then he said, my sister was shot in the head by an Israeli. And then he said about an aunt of his who was also killed. He said, I have every reason to hate Israelis. But I realized when you choose a side, you become part of the problem. And that statement resonates with most people, except people on the extremes. The people on extremes, when you say that phrase to them, they lose it. They just lose it. They said, no, you're wrong. You have to choose a side. You have to choose a side, because what if they're causing all sorts of, so if you read that section carefully in the earthquake, it's, you know, I qualify it by saying in relationships, because you've got the relationship between the conscious and subconscious mind, but we're also in relationships. In fact, any contentious issue is probably has a qualifier of relationships in there somewhere. Now, if someone is being hurt or maimed or killed, choosing a side is choosing the side of love, right? Over hate. But, you know, quite frankly, when it comes to that concept, that unintended consequence of the polarity that is hopefully exposed throughout the course of the book, it's a subtext that I wanted to be part of it by the time I got you to the end.
And does anybody have any last questions for Vince?
I don't have a question, but I tell you what, I did drop a tear or two towards the end of the book. Kind of broke my heart a little bit, but
Where?
I understand why. Brio.
Oh yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually I contacted him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely had a tear or two.
yeah. Well, Megan actually reached out to me and said, how could you? All right, just get over it. Just keep reading. You'll be good.
I had that exact same thought. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah. I was so into the story that I wasn't looking forward at all. And when Brio died, like, oh my God, no.
Yeah.
But then
It's like the end of all wisdom.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, I think
But-
that's
It's like the
Well, it really sets them up to repair themselves, right? And then they run into Ella, who is almost a mirror reflection of the ant and the elephant, going, oh, so that was an inflection point for their reparation, if you will, of them really taking hold of this. And what the young lady said, where she went, iPhone 133 Rose. Oh, Rose. That might be Rose that said that, you know. So anyway, yeah, it's And there was a bit of fun I had with the storyline, by the way, being able to have you think that they were going to get attacked at their camp, but then you didn't realize that there was a flashback happening there with the book. So you had this, I don't know what the term is. I'm sure there's a term in writing, but it was a fun little thing to kind of take the reader and go, oh, wait, what happened? And then catch you up that way.
Yeah.
Meanwhile.
Yes. Okay. So any questions before yeah, Tanya, are you putting your hand up or are you shooing Brio away there? No?
Sharing mozzies.
Okay. Yeah.
Melanie?
Can I do, okay, it's not a question, but what's something I liked when we did the ant and the elephant was you on about the oasis. And I think I was the only one that said I didn't have one particular place. I was like, well, I don't really have one place that I try to focus on because I can have my oasis wherever I go because I do like traveling. So I find that oasis in wherever I am. And I spent 6 months in Houston in Texas in 2017. So I always say that a piece of my heart is still in Texas. If I think of Texas and where I lived and the people around there, then I get that feeling of joy and comfort and longing to go there as much as I do it just going out to one of the islands here or being at home. So I think bringing that through was quite good for me. I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'm not, it is okay because I was just so different to everyone else. Everyone else was able to learn something where I was like, well, I don't have one set place. So I quite like that as well. So yeah, so I'd say that.
Yeah, and that's how this book ends, right?
Yes.
It doesn't, right? No.
Yeah. So I like that because it brought from, because I was thinking, well, should I have one oasis? So I was like really thinking. And then when that came through, I'm like, no, actually, yeah, because I think it's part of me with traveling and probably that ant and the elephant, that push pull as well,
Right.
Should I be settling down now? Should I be settling down in one place? No, just see where it goes and just go with it. And so I'm going to Thailand doing some studying shortly.
And we've got Jani is in Vietnam at the moment. So she's working as a digital nomad, and I certainly work wherever I am. Love travel, love it. And COVID was a real bugger for everybody because travel just stopped. Yeah. And I'm coming.
Torture.
Yeah. I'm coming back to Australia in a month. I'm going up to do some training for Tanya in Babinda. So I will be in Cairns for a week and I'm staying at Melanie's place while Melanie is in Thailand. I'll also be in Brisbane and I've got one of my kids coming over here next week. And then I'm going to go off to New Zealand as well. And for Christmas, Mr. Paul and I are leaving the island. We're coming. Well, I keep saying we're going home, but we're actually not. We're doing a road trip because one of the things, as most of you know, what is in my vision, what I want most out of life is my Georgian to run retreats from, right? So everybody knows I want this historic stone Georgian and this damn book, Vince, my gosh. So this damn book has made me realize, just as Melanie was saying, that actually, the oasis is not the thing. The oasis is, it's the feeling. It's the spiritual belief. Yeah. Yes. But I still want my Georgian. So I'm going on a road trip through New South Wales to go and check out all of the Georgians, everybody. Yes. All right.
Well, if I will say, while I'm thinking of it, if all of you have time to do a bit of a review on some of your favorite book sellers, I only have 19 reviews of The Earthquake on Amazon.
Yeah.
Which, I've got more than 19 friends and they're busy. I don't know what's going on. So if you can help, that would be great. So.
What has stopped me
Thank you.
what stopped me from publishing mine so far is that the book is so profound. I find myself thinking about it frequently when I'm walking the dog, who's here being very naughty at the moment. If I'm walking the dog, or I'm pretending to do housework, you know, my mind is going back to the book all the time, and it's like peeling the skins off an onion. It's layer by layer. And I don't want to do this disservice in any way. So that's the only thing that has stopped me. I'm still unraveling. I'm still reflecting. Yeah, but I absolutely will.
Yeah.
And I know that some of you probably were unable to get the book, because some people don't like to listen on Audible or other audio programs. And certainly I believe that the bookshops in Australia haven't got the book out. So that has stopped some people from coming today because they hadn't read it. And I did say to them, come and meet Vince and listen to what he's got to say anyway. Because when you pick up the book, you'll have a deeper understanding to begin with. But who here has read it? Yep.
I listened on Audible.
Yep, great. Yep, I call that reading too. Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Yep. Who else? Yeah.
I've read bits of it and listened to most of it.
Yep. Okay.
I haven't read it yet, but I'm really glad that I came to this meeting, because it will give me a deeper understanding of what the book's about and what to look through. And yeah, I'm really looking forward. I don't like Audible books either, so I'll have to get a hard copy from somewhere.
Yeah. I have got one coming, I've got a signed copy coming from Vince, but we have 12,500 tonne of sea mail that is sitting on the wharf in Brisbane, waiting to come to the island. There's no barges at the moment. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but it is what it is. So I'm hoping that it will arrive before I'm off island at Christmas. But I'm very happy to loan that book to people, as long as it's a boomerang. It's got to come back, because I loaned The Ant and the Elephant to somebody and I've never got it back. Right, so this is a boomerang. It's got to come back. All right. All right. So just before we all end off, and before I say goodbye to Vince, this is the last book club that is going to be open to everyone. I'm going to start a second book club. So there will be a book club of popular literature, and then the personal development book club is going into Founding Astounding, the closed course. So for those of you who are graduates of Founding Astounding, you get that for free, and it's going to open tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock Brisbane time, 7 o'clock my time. It's a champagne launch, and you can see when where is it? Here it is. When Mr. Paul was in Australia yesterday, he brought me back something to enjoy at our launch tomorrow night. And he doesn't drink it all. So damn it, once it opens, I'm going to have to drink it. Isn't that a shame? Well,
make sure you tell Paul he now has competition, and it's with your future husband.
Oh, you don't drink either? You don't drink, Vince? Well, you do.
I'll drink with you.
Oh, look, Moe, I just adore it. For those of you who know who Tony Ferguson is, Tony Ferguson and I are personal friends. And when I used to go to stay with him in Sydney, he would always meet me at the door with a glass of Moe. Like, if you insist.
That's funny.
My favorite drink. Yeah. So I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you, everyone, for being on the call.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, good. I hope it was time well spent for you. It's a privilege that you all were on this call. It really was. For an author, it's and particularly with this book. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You were so generous with your time too. I told everybody that I thought you'd just pop in for the 10 minutes. So I'm very, very grateful. That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Vince. And love to Michelle. Thank her for giving you up for an hour. Sorry, Johnny.
Yeah, I said, well done, Megan. You can let go of the back of his arm now, you know.
No, I'm letting go of the
And I've got, and I loved hearing about Texas too.
Yes, yes. I'm
I
in
was there
Dallas.
through Hurricane Harvey, so yeah.
Oh wow, yeah, wow, yeah. That
Yeah,
was
I did
something.
I did some volunteering while I was out there during Harvey. So it was
Oh,
quite
wow.
a tumultuous time. And then obviously the other earthquakes, the other cyclones that's over here, hurricanes that went through, there were family all over US. So it was like, so hearing about Texas, it's always like, oh,
Yeah,
what's in my
yeah.
heart. So
Wow.
thank you. It's been lovely.
Where does Brene Brown live?
Thank you
She's
very
in,
much.
is she in Houston? Do you know Brene Brown?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, I thought it was Houston. Yeah. Vince,
Yeah,
I'm
she's
going to.
Houston. Isn't she Austin?
Oh, it could be
Is
Austin.
she Austin, Texas?
Yes, Austin. Or that's where she's working at her. I don't know what you call her business. It's not the university, but yeah. Do you happen to know Brene Brown? Is she in your circles, Vince?
No, she's I'd like to meet her. She's on her game, man. She's got it going on.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah. So I've got her on my target list, and also Simon Sinek. I want to try and get them both to book club as well. Yeah. So I'll just keep
Pretty
trying.
awesome.
Yeah. So thank you,
Yeah.
everybody. If anybody wants to stay behind to chat to me, I can probably be here for about another half an hour before I've got clients. But Vince, thank you. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Wonderful.
See you later. Bye.
Bye,
Take care.
everyone.
See ya. Bye-bye.